Welcome to CityCast Denver. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Okay, well, we're here at the City Park Pavilion. We're standing here at Farrell Lake looking at the bandshell. My God, I have not seen this since it happened. But before we get into what we're looking at, I want to introduce the two women that I'm going to be talking to today about this park and this bandshell and some other really wonderful parts about the park. First, she's the president of City Park Friends and Neighbors. Georgia Garnsey, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here.
And then second, she's a Chichangu, Lakota, and Cherokee artist, community organizer, and candidate for city council at large in the election next year. Christina Maldonado Badhand, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to both of you for being here. I guess since we're staring at the bandshell, let's start there. And I just want to start with you, Georgia. What is your connection to this park?
I live close to the park, and I've walked in the park for 35 years and have become very protective of it. I didn't grow up with parks, and so as an adult, I've spent a lot of my time here. And with my children, with my dogs, with friends, picnics, everything. So I've been involved in a lot of controversies in the park and a lot of celebrations of the park.
You just dropped that all casual.
Yeah.
Controversies?
Oh, wow. Why did I do that?
We don't have to get into it if you don't want to.
Well, 30 years ago,
Okay.
the DPR wanted to put offices in the pavilion.
Parks and Rec, okay.
And I and many others were opposed to it, but they felt that it was a good idea because that's how you renovated old structures. You found a purpose for them. So we did protests and little marches and little newsletters and petitions and this and that. And the city was not interested. So my husband, who is an attorney and feisty, said, "What can I do to shut you up? Do you want me to sue the city?"
What a guy.
And I said, "Yes."
And he was like,
did.
fine.
And he won.
Yeah, for folks that don't know that is obviously not what happened with the pavilion. I have so many friends that have gotten married here. I have friends put on a festival here. It's a really beautiful space. So, okay, let's talk about the piece at hand right now. We're looking at is the bandshell. A couple of months ago, it caught fire.
Yes.
Tell us what do you know?
Well, a month ago, I think, Adam Smith, who's the superintendent of the East District with his offices there in the pavilion, he gets the call when something goes wrong. So the police department called him and said the Denver Zoo security guards have seen smoke, and we think the pavilion is burning down. So he was like, and he got here, and it was the bandstand. And it's heartbreaking. Quinceañeras, weddings, kids hanging out, kids improvising.
It's a stage.
Yeah, and so beautiful. But the outpouring of support for rebuilding it has been huge and gratifying.
That's wonderful.
And City Park Alliance, the other advocacy group for the park, besides City Park Friends and Neighbors, and we've raised $25,000.
And that's to
They have to raise $250,000 to access the insurance.
Oh, wow.
It's the deductible.
It's the deduct.
I know.
Wow.
$250K.
Holy
Yeah.
cow. Well, let's talk really quick for folks that might not be able to picture it. We're looking at this bandshell. What is it? Tell us what it looks like. I mean, it's been damaged by fire, but how old was the structure? What are we looking at? I see beautiful red tiled roof. Just tell us a little more about it.
This place where we're standing right in front of the pavilion has been a place for music since Denver was founded. In the 1890s, there were informal bands here and people would gather. They thought Denver was going to be the next Paris, and they needed a big park. And the Victorian era, they were all here dancing and whatever. The first bandstand and the first lake was Duck Lake over there. And it was on an island. John Philip Sousa came and all sorts of people. It was very important. Then they moved that pavilion in that corner. Then they had a floating bandstand, which is your favorite, Paul.
That's wild.
And they would load the musicians on the island, and then they would tow it to the middle of the lake, and people would be all around listening to it. And the way they towed it, they had swan boats, and they would have someone laying on the back of the swan with their feet extended into the boat, and they'd paddle it.
Wow, that sounds like a tough job.
They were wild. In 1924, the pavilion was in this position, but this area has been musical and kind of the musical soul of the city since its founding.
Christina, let's pull you into this conversation. You've been doing some work here at the park, and which we'll talk about here pretty soon. But I want to know, you've been spending a lot of time in this park. What was your reaction when you first heard about what had happened to the bandshell?
Oh, same as everyone else in terms of being really concerned and upset about it. I definitely have a tie to the park. I was on the Denver American Indian Commission, and we used to meet in the Museum of Nature and Science. So that meeting spot, you could really see all of City Park. When my husband and I got engaged, we decided to do our engagement photos here in City Park. So all of my engagement photos are like all over this park. And so, yeah, I was actually a little bit disbelief because of all of the times that you get clickbait where I saw that it was on fire, and I was like, is that really true? And I clicked on it, and I was like, oh man, okay, that is true. That's really sad. So I'm really excited that there's fundraising happening to bring the bandstand back. I've been to a few concerts here and the Black Arts Festival, and definitely I would say City Park is still very much like the party central.
Yeah. Yes. Well, should we walk over to the section that you've been sort of working on, Christina? The living land?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And maybe as we go, Georgia, point out history stuff if you got stories.
Oh, yeah. You know the whole park.
I'll tell you one thing that is right over here. There was a police officer who was killed 11 years ago, and her name was Selena Harris. And there's a memorial to her there. And every season it is decorated with different flowers and ribbons. And
that's beautiful.
So that is a spectacular part of the park. And every June, she was shot in June at a City Park Jazz Festival. She was off
duty.
She was off duty. You see police officers gather at this sign in her memory and bench, and red high heel shoes.
That just speaks so much to, just between the two of you, the stories that you've shared since we've gotten here, it really speaks to how important this park is to the city for so many reasons. Like it's got a walking path. It's beautiful. I've seen that view you were talking about, Christina, from the Museum of Nature and Science a million times. But it's also like where people celebrate or where people memorialize their family members. There's a lot going on here.
It's fantastic. And I have to say, during COVID, people rediscovered the importance of parks.
Yeah.
And it's been a continuing process ever since.
This episode is brought to you by the Regional Air Quality Council. This summer, go wild for Front Range air quality. Created from pollutants like car exhaust, ground-level ozone is the Colorado Front Range's biggest air quality issue and a leading cause of respiratory problems.
But you can take simple steps for better air this summer and save money on gas. Leave the car at home and walk, bike, or scoot shorter distances. Other ways to do your part? Carpool and combine trips to save gas. Or be a better person like myself and get an electric vehicle. And maybe my electric vehicle only gets 88 miles for a charge, so I can only go so far, but I'm driving an EV. Shout out to my Nissan Leaf! Woo woo! Want to know when it matters most to take these steps? Sign up for summer ozone alerts. Text Better Air CO to 21000 or sign up for emails at the Simple Steps Better Air website. Learn more ways to help improve our air quality on the Front Range at simplestepsbetterair.org. That's simplestepsbetterair.org. This episode is brought to you by Levitt Pavilion. You know the summer is officially here when Levitt Pavilion Denver drops their killer concert lineup. If you're not familiar, Levitt Pavilion Denver is a nonprofit concert venue offering free and ticketed all-ages concerts May through October. This season starts with a banger, people. Catch Bone Thugs and Harmony on May 22nd for a ticketed show that you won't forget. You know, you have not lived until you have cruised to Bone Thugs and Harmony's Creeping on a Come Up. Reminds me of back when I had a pager. Back in the day, we didn't have ringtones, obviously. We just had pagers, but you could personalize your voicemail. So you could just put a Bone Thug song on it, and then someone would leave you a voicemail, and then you had to go to a payphone, and you had to call your pager, and you had to listen to the voicemail. That's a little history for you kids. Then, on May 23rd, see the first free series show of the year, Rock de Mayo, featuring Izcali, Los Mocochetes, Fruta Brutal, Monica the Great, and more. RSVP for free shows, buy upgrades, and find the full schedule at levittdenver.org. That's levittdenver.org. It was a beautiful sunny afternoon in City Park as Christina, Georgia, producer Paul Caroli, and I walked from the burned bandshell around Farrell Lake toward the southeast corner of the park. We swapped stories, and Georgia shared more of the history as we ambled along the water.
So now I remember where I was going. Excuse me, I'm wandering mine. So it's remarkable that in 1882, they decided they needed this park because a park for the public was a new concept. It had just been introduced by Olmsted in Central Park in New York. And it was only 20 years since Central Park was founded. And they leapt on this idea that no, parks aren't for private estates and wealthy people. Parks are for the public, and where people will gather and come to know each other, and everything will go well anyway, or better. So then Mayor Speer in the early 1900s was the next mayor who just fell in love with City Park. And he started a campaign called Give While You Live, where people of modest means, middle class, everybody would donate to parks. And it was a successful campaign, and that's where all these gateways come from.
Wow.
And this is his favorite statue, Robert Speer. And it's after a yes, sorry about the goose.
It's a park.
It's a park, though.
What can you do?
It gives you something to think about. There was a statue in Germany that he just loved, the children's statue, and he had it reproduced and brought here. And here's a funny story and a sad story. Do you notice that the limbs of the children are all cut off?
Oh, gosh. So there's 3 children sort of on a rock?
Yes.
Okay. And they're looking down
kinda
over the rock.
Ankles are cut off and noses, etc.
Yeah.
Well, you get the feeling of it anyway. But kids just love cutting off those limbs. And the minute you replace them, they go out and do it again. So Parks and Rec had the genius to manufacture dozens of limbs, noses, and ears. So when it happens, they just
go
come out
stick
and
another
stick
one
it
on? I want to go look at this. I want to see. This is.
I
don't
think
know
right
if I've
now
ever
there's
even
only
looked at
one
this.
that's missing a foot at the moment.
Yeah, it's faring pretty well right now.
Yes, well, the idea is to tire these kids out. And maybe DPR is winning.
Oof.
The other animal that hangs out here is a goose called Gandalf. And Gandalf
This is Gandalf's spot.
is a Toulouse goose. It's a French goose. And it looks different from all the Canadians, but it hangs out with the Canadians. I'll tell you if I see him. A lady in Aurora decided she wanted a Toulouse goose. And so she imported all these eggs. And
Oh no.
2 survived. And they were big. And she couldn't deal with them. So she did, which you should not do, people.
Oh no.
Don't do this. But she brought
Let 'em loose.
Gandalf and Randolph.
Gandalf and Randolph, wow.
And Randolph died. I don't know how. But Gandalf is here. And he's very distinctive looking, but he likes this area. So
I just can't believe someone would take a goose and then just dump it off. Well,
she evidently
right?
visits the goose.
Okay.
She comes a lot and she calls to it, and evidently Gandalf just adores her. And
This is wild. I'm going to take a picture of this really quick. I've never seen this statue somehow.
only 2 feet.
Oh my gosh.
You can see where somebody took a hatchet to the forehead of the baby. Why am I laughing?
I know. I was like,
No, not
why
are you laughing?
attacking
More
the
just like,
babies?
why?
Because I think of these kids. Oh, God, I have nothing to do. I'm bored. Come on, let's go to the
Attack.
children's statue.
Go beat it up.
Right, that's crazy.
Okay, should we keep going
it actually
towards?
had all of its limbs when we did our pictures here. But
That's nice.
Did it? Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad.
How many lakes are in the park?
1, 2. Well, 3.
3.
Little Lake, Farrell Lake, and Duck Lake,
Okay.
where the first pavilion was.
Okay.
And this is called Farrell Lake because the poet laureate of Colorado, Thomas Hornsby Farrell, lived at Downing and 22nd and had people like Whitman at his house and loved City Park and walked around it daily composing poetry.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that's what it was named after.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And his house is nearby. It still stands.
Georgia, why is the zoo here?
Isn't that a good question? Well, this was just parkland. And the first building to go up was for the Museum of Nature and Science. And that was a pyramid, a little pyramid. And a taxidermist from Breckenridge had all these animals. He was an amateur that he had stuffed. And he gave them to the museum. And that's how it started.
That's wild.
And then sometime after that, the zoo started to build here. And the first zoo animal was a bear. I'm pointing almost to where Christina is going to do Shortgrass Prairie. The mayor at that time was given a bear as a pet and decided it was too rambunctious and they couldn't handle it. And there was a farmer who was allowed to do his thing over here because he had goats that could cut the grass. And he took the bear and staked it in the park. And kids would come and visit. Everybody loved it. And then that got too much, and the zoo decided that was their first animal.
It's a
And the
gifted
first
bear.
cage was
Wild.
the jail. Why, I knew so much trivia at the bottom of the pavilion, where this was so popular that when people got rowdy, they would put them there. So that's why the zoo is here.
episode is brought to you by Denver Health. As more states change their laws around psychedelics, a big question keeps coming up. What does that actually mean for people's health? Denver Health is working to find out. Denver Health just received major funding from the National Institutes of Health, one of the most competitive research grants in science, to study how psychedelic use and drug policy affect health outcomes over time. The research will track use patterns across the country and compare results in states with different laws, giving doctors, lawmakers, and communities the reliable data they've been missing. At Denver Health, bold research that improves health is part of the mission for life's journey. Learn more at dhha.org/psychedelic surveillance. That's dhha.org/psychedelic surveillance. At the southeast corner of Farrell Lake, we stopped and looked out at a patch of gravel and mulch. We had arrived at the part of City Park that I was really excited to talk to Christina about, because for the past few years, she's been working on what she calls the Living Land Project with Denver Parks and Rec. They got $1.5 million in city funding to convert and redevelop this area of the park to celebrate and educate park goers about environmental resiliency and the native and indigenous people, animals, and land of Denver.
I think actually we could probably start here because this is where the arbor is going to go. Since we're walking right through it, we might as well. But this is the old playground that has been moved to Awesome Nature Play, which is one of my son's favorite playgrounds. An arbor, for those that don't know, is like a giant structure where ceremonies are held. So ceremonies being like powwows or dances. It basically looks very similar to like an outdoor, like kind of similar to the bandstand. Usually has some form of roof structure, and then it has seating underneath. The whole project will be done towards 2028. So thankfully, we're starting to talk more about what that construction of that arbor will look like. But on a really exciting note about like the Living Land Project and it being here in City Park, way before all of the history that Georgia's been telling everybody, this was hunting grounds for a lot of our tribes. And Denver historically is an intersection space. The Confluence River was a really big point of trade. There was 48 of the tribes that we know here, but there's also been a lot throughout the years that have different sacred sites around Colorado. And this particular area was just very common for people to meet and to convene and trade. And so there's a lot of history of Indigenous peoples in Colorado. And actually within the zoo, they actually did have Indigenous people in cages at one point. So that is one of the points of contention with the zoo, but the zoo has since done free membership for Native community members. And we did actually have a herd of buffalo in the zoo at one point. As we were doing the listening sessions for this Living Land Project, we had a lot of feedback where people were like, we want a buffalo herd in City Park. And we were like, that I don't know if that's a great idea. It's just not enough space for them. But because of that, it has led to a really interesting project that's being done by a bunch of students. They're creating a metal buffalo that can then go into the prairie land that we'll get to in a minute, of where it'll have a permanent buffalo as opposed to a full herd that I could just see terrorizing the geese here and be very, very entertaining.
So each of these components you've just described, is this all part of the Living Land Project? Can you let's back up a little bit and explain what that is and how it came to be?
Yeah, so the Living Land Project is kind of like a land back initiative that thankfully, thanks to Georgia and CP Fan, the conversation was started. I did a living topiary sculpture in the Seeds of Power Unity Garden as a part of a PSU or Here grant with Redline. And they came to my opening and we had talked about doing something similar in the Lily Ponds area. And so they connected me to Scott Gilmore. We came and walked the area, looked at the possibilities. And Scott and I got into a conversation of it could be an art installation that works as a land acknowledgement, or we could do something that was a little bit more of a community engagement and finding out what the community would like with this space, especially because of the history I just mentioned. And as I mentioned before, being on the Denver American Indian Commission, we had all of our meetings in the Museum of Nature and Science, and they still do. So there's a lot of partnerships and relationships in City Park that had the potential to grow a larger project. And so from that, it moved actually really quickly, which I'm very excited about because historically our community hasn't seen projects actually pick up momentum. There's been a lot of suggestion of projects and excitement, but then we are at the point where a lot of our elders would say, like, this isn't going to happen in my lifetime, but I want it to happen eventually. So I'm now at the point where I'm like, why not? Why can't it happen in people's lifetimes? Like, we see libraries and things get built within a matter of years. So why can't that happen for our community? And thankfully, that is what's happening with the Living Land Project. We broke ground in the Prairie Land last Indigenous Peoples Day. So the South Meadow is being returned to prairie, and we'll have a bunch of meditation walks along with signage in Indigenous language, more art activations. So I'm really excited that the discussion moved beyond just myself as an artist, but offering opportunity to multiple artists of all ages. As I mentioned, those students, one of them is a mentee of mine, and she's getting certified in welding so that she can weld the buffalo statue, and she's only 16. So I'm super proud of her.
You kind of mentioned that elders have said, like, we've seen this before, basically, but not necessarily actually being acted on. What do you think changed, or how did you convince city leaders that this could happen?
I always say that there's pathways that get opened up. You see it in nonprofits all the time, where you have one or two individuals that really engage with the community and are in community spaces and seeing the actual needs for what people are asking for. And then oftentimes those people, when they leave, they take all of that connection with them, and then you have to start all over again. And thankfully, we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of people in City Council and in Denver Parks and Recs who believe in it and are opening all these different pathways for the community to talk about what the needs are. And that has also led to that tribal embassy. But that's also what made me want to run for City Council, is because a lot of them will be terming off. And I think that those pathways should be accessible for everyone to be able to have those conversations, especially marginalized communities. When there is a need, there's always listening sessions that happen, and people hear it, but then they don't actually listen in terms of why that need is important.
That's wonderful.
This is why it's happening. This young lady is just inspiring to everyone, and I have benefited from the beauty of her culture and her personal vision, and she's just got us enchanted.
Well, what did you think when this first was proposed? Like, you're a historian of this park, and this is a whole new layer of that story that hadn't been told before.
My City Park Friends and Neighbors group has long wanted the bluegrass in this meadow that's going to be turned into low-grass prairie. The water situation is terrible, and that particular meadow has not been used a lot. There's some wonderful trees in it, but that's long been an idea. And then the idea of land acknowledgement surfaced, I think, from the museum. And so I really take credit for this, was looking around for somebody that we could connect with as a group and support. And I heard about this amazing storyteller at the Denver Art Museum, who was also an artist with Red Line Gallery. And I emailed her and said, would you meet me and some board members for coffee? And she did. And since then, we're hooked. We've had many programs. She's introduced us to other members of the Native American community. And so she just was the person. And that was a good question. It took the right person to drive this.
Christina, how did you feel about doing this project within the park as it exists now? I mean, you know, we've talked a lot about what happens, what white folks decided to do with this space versus what your community was doing with it long before. Those things can be at odds. There is tension there. Like, I don't know. How did you feel?
You can't erase history. I've always been of the mindset that you have to have conversations and you have to be willing to accept in order to really heal. And so we did a lot of listening sessions around how to do the Living Land Project with our community and then also with CPFAN and some of the surrounding organizations to create something that would benefit everybody. So would give the kind of autonomy and connection that our community has with this space, but also be welcoming. And that part of that is because of my dad. My dad is a spiritual leader, and he runs a lot of Sundances, and we always called his camp the international camp because he would invite everybody from all over the place. So we had people from France, from Germany, from Japan, all these different places in our camp at Sundance. And he was always very open about sharing our culture. And the way he always worded it is people can't take something from you if you're willing to share it. And so coming to Denver, that was always my philosophy. And there's definitely a lot within my community and fear of sharing things and it being taken away. And that's why the listening sessions were so important, because we wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to voice their concerns and to talk about the history of this space and to really think about what is a healthy way that we move forward to building community where they don't feel slighted and where they feel like they've been able to weigh in. And so those medicine walks and the spots where people can sit came from different community members. And there was actually a really funny conversation via Post-it notes that was on one of our things that someone said sweat lodge and another person was like, no sweat lodge. So, and it was like a whole argument of who having a sweat lodge here and all this other stuff. And that actually gave me a chance to address that, where I was like, well, yes, we need more spaces to hold ceremony. However, is City Park the place to do it? Then it became more of a like, what are the community's needs that we could then take to other projects? But what makes sense in City Park, knowing that it will be accessible to everybody? And what do you really want to share? And having a sweat lodge in here, there was the difficult conversation of, well, you have unsheltered relatives who might come in, people might drink in that space. And so that would just cause more harm than good.
Sure. So again, we're looking at this section of City Park off of the museum. Can you just describe what because it isn't here yet, right? So what are we going to see in this space that we're looking at right now?
So the whole area that we're standing in with the arbor, we've talked about, we will have like minimal concrete, mostly just for ADA accessibility, but we don't want it to feel concrete jungle. And especially arbor-wise, when you have people dancing in the center, it sucks to dance on concrete, just speaking from experience.
Yeah.
So we'll still have the grassland inside of there. With the development of the prairie land, there will be a lot of returning animals. And Georgia sent me a fun little picture of, we got some hawks and stuff coming back here because of nature play. But with that prairie land, we may see some prairie dogs. We may see some coyotes, like more of the animals that are used to that type of land. The medicine garden, when I say medicine garden, it'll be a lot of our indigenous medicines. So like sweetgrass, sage, ostra, cattails are one that is sacred to the Ute. So a lot of those particular plants, but we have also discussed what other types of medicines can go in there, whether it's teas like echinacea flowers. So that'll all go in there. We are discussing what the water looks like because some of the contamination in the water makes it hard to consume a lot of these things. So that is something we're working on. The prairie land, we're actually steaming the grass, which hasn't been done on the large level that it is going to be done. So it's a first time for everybody, but it's like this giant steam machine. So we're steaming the grass in order to kill it so that it can then be the fertilizer for all of these plants. And so that we are not introducing any harsh chemicals into the grounds here. So that's been a lot of the conversation about how we return and rematriate this space in a way that we're also not harming the animals and the things that have created it into their own space for the past 50, 100 years.
Sure.
And so we've talked about how we humanely move some things. Honestly, just by planting a prairie land, the geese won't be in that area as much. They don't come down to prairie because of the high grass. It's like possible predators. They avoid anything that is prairie land. So a lot of people are excited
I
about
was gonna say,
that.
that'll be nice. A lot of geese poop around.
Yes, yeah, that's been a
Coyote that has showed up over there by Little Lake, and we're kind of edging it forward, hoping to see more. And
Yeah.
fox.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the foxes. When I was in college, our dorms were actually on 8th in Colorado, and we used to see foxes all the time. And I had a really funny moment with a fox one night because I was studying and it was like my brain was fried, so I went outside to like stargaze, and I'm just sitting there, and we had like our trash cans right next to where I'm sitting, and I just happened to look down, and this fox was like sniffing around trying to get in the trash, and then he looked at me, I looked at him, I jumped, and he like leapt like a foot in the air and took off running, and I was just like, oh, okay, we scared each other. But I loved like having those interactions being on this side of the city. I'm in the Rhino Arts District at the moment, and I'm surrounded by cars.
Yeah, you're not going to get that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually looking to be more this direction, but at the moment we're still in Rhino. So it's I miss the greenery and the animals.
Well, Christina and Georgia, thank you so much. This was a really lovely and engaging tour of the park. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for being out here with us. And
We love talking about this, so thank you for giving us the opportunity. I hope we didn't talk too much.
yeah, and now I have a whole additional love for the city park because there's a goose named Gandalf, which I did not know, and I love that.
And I'll introduce you.
All right.
That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Gandalf the Toulouse Goose about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our morning newsletter at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.